Okay, so now we're into lesson 2, and we've already talked quite a bit about some things in lesson 2, but we're going to study, in addition to intervals, we're going to study harmonic centers and what that means and how they can influence us in the music that we are composing or creating or improvising as we play. And so we're trying to learn how to play the piano instead of read notes on paper. We're trying to learn how to play the piano instead of memorizing notes on paper. We're trying to learn how to play the piano like us instead of playing the inspirations of other people who already understood these concepts and many, many others, which we'll cover. So, what is an interval? Well, that's a note, 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 right? So any note is a note. An interval are any two notes. So that's an interval. 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 That's what we call those intervals, okay? Basically, these are some of the intervals. We'll play in the key of C. That's a second. That's a third. That's a perfect fourth. That's a fifth. That's a sixth. That's a seventh. And that's an octave, an eighth. Okay? Now with the black notes, that's a minor second. Minor meaning it's flat 1/2. If that's a second, that's a minor second. That's a second. That's a minor third. Because that's a third. So that's a minor third. That's a third. That's a perfect fourth. There can only be one form of fourth, and that's a perfect fourth. Then we have this interval, which is called a tritone. And we're going to talk in depth about tritones in lessons coming up because they're incredibly powerful in influencing how we play music. But basically, a tritone is this interval. Okay? And this note is exactly halfway harmonically between this note and this note. The note right in the middle harmonically is that note. Okay? So that is a tritone interval. It's also called a flat 5. And it's a flat 5 because that's the 5. That's the fifth. That is a flat 6 or a flat 13. It can also be considered, if we go the other way with it, it can also be considered a fourth. No, I'm sorry, a third. That interval right there is a third. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 whole tones. Okay, third. And then the sixth is considered a minor third because it's just like those are all minor thirds. Minor third. There's a 7, a flat 7, or it's also a second in the key of B flat. And there's a major 7, which is also considered a flat 2 in the key of B. And then the octave. So those are intervals, and those are the names of them. And they become important when we learn how to communicate music with other musicians, which is what we're trying to do, is play with others and share what we've learned with other musicians. And so these are the things that everyone will know in common. So those are intervals. There's a perfect fourth, there's a third, there's a second. In the key of G, there's a third, there's a 5, there's a 4, there's a flat 3, a minor third, there's a minor second, right? And here's a 4, here's a 5. There's the tritone, because it's exactly halfway between the octave, which is the flat 5, and then the flat 6, which can also be considered as a third of the other key. But in this case, it's a flat 6. And the 6, which can be a minor third. So basically, anytime we're playing something like this, that's a third. That's a fourth. That's a third. That's a minor third. That's a minor third. That's a minor third. There's a fifth. There's a tritone. There's a tritone. So these are intervals, okay? Now, it's interesting because we're now going to talk about harmonic centers. And this is more of a demonstration and an ear training exercise. This isn't something that you would practice. It's fun to play because it's a great study in harmony, but it's not something that maybe you would use on a regular basis to compose music. Maybe you would, I don't know. It just depends on how you see it and how you hear it. So what we're going to do is we're going to study harmonic centers. An interval are any two notes, right? These are intervals. Okay, any three chords or more is a chord. It's no longer an interval, it's a chord, okay? And so in the case of C, there's a chord, right? There's a chord, there's a chord, there's a chord, that's a chord, that's a chord, that's a chord. These are all chords because they have three notes associated with them. These are all chords. All chords. These are all chords. And so, before we study all the extensions of chords and really break them down and learn their colors and their values, we're going to study harmonic centers. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to choose any note on the piano. Let's choose this note. Let's choose E flat, just random. You can choose any one. It's all the same, okay? So we're just going to start on E flat. Okay, so I'm going to propose to you a premise. The two notes that are either side of E flat. These two notes have in their harmonic center that note right there, E flat. So if we play these two, their harmonic center is E flat. Now if we're going to go in counter movement, which is what this is called when we move in this direction with both hands, we go another half step. These two notes are equidistant harmonically from that note as well. Because so these two notes, which is what? That's a third, right? That interval has the E flat as its harmonic center. Okay, well, let's keep going in counter movement. These two notes, which is the tritone, have at its harmonic center the E flat. Because okay? And so if we keep going in counter movement, these notes have E flat as their harmonic center. These two notes have E flat as their harmonic center. These two notes have E flat as their harmonic center. As do these. These two notes have E flat as its harmonic center. Okay? As do these two notes, these two notes, these two notes, and these two notes have E flat as the harmonic center. So it sounds like this. And it resolves to 2 octaves. If we converge, all of those notes have E flat as their harmonic center. We could do it on another note. Let's say we start on G. Okay? We'll do the same thing. It resolves to G. All of these notes have G as their harmonic center. Okay? Let's go back to the original one, and let's play the original harmonic center with these. It resolves. All of these notes, all of these chords, these are all chords, have the E flat as their harmonic center. Now, what if we were not to use a note as our first note? What if we were going to use a note that we can only imagine? It doesn't exist, but it's there. Harmonically, it's in the center. There's 88 keys on the piano. 88. The harmonic center of the entire piano is not a note. It's a note between two notes. It's called a microtone. There's a pitch, there's a note that's right between this one and this one. It's right between middle E and middle F. We can't hear it, but it's there in our mind. We can imagine it. That's the harmonic center of these two notes. And it's the harmonic center of these two notes. And it's the harmonic center of these two notes. And these two notes. And these two notes. And these two notes. These two notes. These two notes. These two notes. These two. So now when we move in counter movement with both hands, we get a different tonal quality. And it can't resolve. It cannot resolve. Because the harmonic center is between these two notes right here. So all of these notes in this chord, if you will, have as their harmonic center not a note, but a note that we can't hear, but we can only imagine. Why is that important? Well, I'll show you. For example, right there we've got an F major 7, right? The harmonic center of an F major 7 is a note between two notes. If we play them together, the mind is taken to a deeper level. If we bias this chord one way, it's major. And if we bias it another way, it's minor. But when we play them together, it's major and minor at the same time. And the music listener has the ability to interpret that from birth. It's instinctive. They can hear that and they can appreciate the beauty of what we are creating with these harmonies. If we keep going, there's adjacent fifths. adjacent fifths. If we bias it one way, it's major. If we bias it the other way, it's minor. Major, minor. So it's both major and minor at the same time. Now we could do fill it up with all kinds of stuff. But the point being that the harmonic center as a note between these two. And now that we understand the color palette of what we're playing, we can extend this out and we can play a 9, that are offset, but the harmonic center is between these two notes. And we can actually keep going. Let's go another fifth in both directions. All of those notes have that microtone as our harmonic center. The application of this will become more valuable in future lesson plans. But that's basically the value of intervals and harmonic centers.